That's pretty funny. I've got 29 hours worth of labor to do on this 2008 Hummer H3. Almost 20 years old, but really low miles on this truck. It's got 71,532 miles on it. But just like humans, as we age, lack of maintenance can start to pile up and feel like a lot of things all at one time. This truck needs some tires. Missing 3 out of 4 TPMS sensors, so we're gonna go ahead and put some of those in there while we got it apart. This radiator is just starting to leak right on the top seam here, so we're gonna get a radiator in it. The intake manifold is filling up with engine oil and dripping from the bottom down the backside of the motor, so we're gonna go ahead and pull this intake off, clean it out, get the valve cover off, and clean the whole PCV system out, and make sure that's all flowing properly, so that way the crankcase is vented properly and it doesn't keep burning oil. It's had 0 maintenance done on this truck ever. So it's due for transmission fluid, the differentials, the transfer case fluid are all due. It needs a new air filter. The oil change, she doesn't even know when the oil was changed last. It has no sticker and the light is on. It's got oil in it, but it is very, very dark. Like, very dark. For 71,000 miles. Here's what I would expect to see on some oil that's in good shape. And just for reference, this is how dark ours is. This isn't a diesel, but it kind of almost looks like diesel oil. So a PCV system will help with that as well. But we're gonna go ahead and do an oil change on it. The brake fluid is nasty. It's due to be flushed out. The front shocks are very bouncy on it, and the bushings are just rotted on them. Which the bushings aren't really a big deal, but the front of this thing is super bouncy, going over bumps. Got a bunch of play in our ball joints. Both upper ball joints have some slop in them. And when we unload this ball joint by jacking up on the control arm and prying up on the wheel, we got a bunch of play in this lower ball joint also. This right front inner tie rod, if you look right here on this boot, you can't see the tie rod because it's covered by the boot. But that jumping up and down is because that inner tie rod joint inside there is bad. So it needs a new right front inner tie rod end. The transmission filter's never been changed before, so we're gonna do that. Her biggest concern was the oil leak dripping in her garage, which she doesn't like at all. Probably can't see on the video, but if you look up through that hole, you can see that it's clearly coming out of the bottom of the intake manifold. And that's because that intake manifold is filling up with engine oil from the PCV system not working properly. So we got to get that working. These front shocks are leaking. They're blown out. If you look right up through this hole here, that's one of our transmission cooler lines. This guy right here, those are leaking. So we're going to get some new transmission cooler lines on there for her. We're doing upper and lower ball joints on it, and typically I wouldn't pull the CV axle to do that, but we pull this axle out, put a new diff seal in on this right front axle. So yeah, we got a bunch of work to do all at once, but then this thing will be all caught up on all of its maintenance and repairs that it needs at this point, and she'll be good to go for another 70,000 miles, no problem. To be honest, I'm trying to decide where I want to start. I'm going to go ahead and get these wheels and tires off, and one of the apprentices is going to go ahead and wheel them over and get those swapped out while I'm working on everything else. I'm going to get this cover off, and then I got to decide, do I want to do suspension work today? I got about a half a day left today to get going on this thing. So do I want to get my ball joints taken care of, or do I want to do the part that I'm not looking forward to as much, or at all I should say, and go ahead and pull that intake manifold and valve cover off and replace this radiator? Probably going to start with the shitty stuff first, so let's just get at it and see what happens. This Hummer really just looks exactly like a Chevy Colorado underneath with a Hummer body on it. So if you're curious, that's pretty much what you're buying for the extra money, is a Hummer body with a Chevy Colorado truck. But with that being said, Chevy Colorados are actually excellent vehicles. They're very reliable and they're tough little trucks. I see them go to 200,000 to 300,000 miles all the time. So yeah, we got a little project. This is very reminiscent. About 5 years into my career, I went and worked for a Toyota dealership for a few years. And I was one of their used car techs, so I was one of the guys that would take in the used trade-ins or vehicles that they bought from the auction. We'd do a full top-to-bottom inspection on them, and if they were going to keep it, they'd have us fix everything. And the dealer that I worked at was a really good dealer, in my opinion, and if we were going to fix stuff, they'd fix it right. They weren't trying to throw used parts or rebuild stuff. It was doing everything the right way. So that's where I got a lot of my experience. I'd get tons of 20 to 30 hour tickets. I would have cars on the rack for 2 days at a time and just be blasting out a ton of work. And I'd also get a bunch of repeat vehicles. They would tend to get into the habit of buying the same vehicle over and over again once they found stuff that they liked and that was selling well at the time. So I got to do things over and over again, usually within a short period of time, and I got good at a lot of repairs and got fast at them. Got one good tire out of 3, but it's pretty weather cracked. These have been on here since 2016, about 10 years old now. We're gonna go ahead and put all new TPMS sensors in these wheels while we're doing the tires. It's got 1 out of 3, but it's probably original. I didn't even test it, to be honest with you. Since 3 of them are missing, I just decided we'll go ahead and start with all fresh, brand new ones, because if that one is original, it's almost 20 years old. Got decent skid plates on them. Make sure I don't forget these. I'm going to put them behind the car. That way I run them over if I forget, and that'll make a loud noise. I remember. Help me remember. That's already way more accessible, dude. There's that tranny cooler line that's dripping. Probably go ahead and get that off of there. Oh, actually not yet. Fan has to come off first. I've never done a radiator on one of these. In fact, I don't think I've ever even worked on a Hummer before. Not an H3 anyway. When I got some big jobs to do, I try to start with the hardest or most difficult, or just the part that I'm not looking forward to the most. I like to start with that. That way I can just get it out of the way, get it over with. We're gonna do these transmission cooler lines at the same time as the radiator. Oh, they route up over the diff. That shouldn't be too bad. We should be able to just go ahead and fish them right out through the front. It's one of my least favorite things to do on a vehicle is transmission cooler lines. It's not a fan. Just because having to snake them through different engine parts and between differentials and transmissions and drive lines, it gets very frustrating sometimes. And we're just gonna go ahead and rip the band-aid off and get this going right away. Just gonna pull the whole lower hose. If we die, we die. If we make a mess, we'll clean it up. These spring clamp pliers that I have, these are just some Matco spring clamp pliers, but they do have a lock on them. So I can lock that clamp open like that. Oh, and actually the clamp has a lock on it also. You gotta be careful, it might let go and smack the shit out of your finger. So let's see if we can get this hose off without making too big of a mess here. Right there, that's the ticket. I like it. That's just fine right there, bro. We'll go ahead and let that drain down a bit. And once we pull the radiator cap off, it'll drain down a lot more. It's most likely creating a vacuum in there right now and kind of holding onto the coolant. Cap. Listen to the flow. There it goes. Now she's flowing. Radiator will be empty in no time. So what I'm going to do to keep that from dripping the whole time is I have a whole box saved of these caps that came off of various used engines or new parts that we've gotten, transmissions. But I'm going to go ahead and cap that lower radiator spout and also throw a cap in the hose. That way it's not dripping the whole time I'm working on it. It's still draining down a little bit, but it's not going to get much more out of there, so we're safe to go ahead and cap these off. Please accept this cap and stop making messes. We don't like them. The other thing we got to do is get these transmission cooler lines off the bottom here. These use Jesus clips. And I may just go ahead and pull these lines out since we're already under here. Might as well. I got to get them off to do the radiator anyway, so we might as well get those out. And this is just a lock to keep the clip from falling out. One on each here. Then I like to use a hook. We'll go around the open end of the clip and just hook one of the edges. Get it to pop out a little bit like that. Then you can hook the horseshoe portion. Put your finger on there. And you won't lose it and have it go springing across the shop. Same thing up here. This one's a little less accessible, but still fine. Get under the edge, put your finger on it, pull it out. Sticking with a no mess plan. Let's get a pan under here so we don't drip a bunch of tranny fluid on the ground. Pop out of their spots now. There we go. Let that drain for a moment and then cap those off as well. There we go. Once you have the clips out, those just slide right out. Go ahead and cap that off once it's done draining down a bit. Overlap these a little bit. And hopefully we'll have no messes, dude. Pop this top plastic clip back. Get this bottom one popped back. Push pushed out of the way. And let's go to work here. If you can see right up through that hole, I'm just going to clip the edge of that metal clip with my pick here. I'm going to run the metal pick through the groove on the fitting and just hook the edge of the clip, pop it up out of the groove, then I can hook it down the middle with the hook. But easier said than done. Can't even really see what I'm doing, to be honest. There we go. Clip is out of the groove. I have a bunch of these clips if I drop and lose one, but I try my best not to lose them. There's the first one. Got it. And number 2. This one's at a little better angle because the edge of the clip is sticking out on the bottom, so I can see it a lot better. Go ahead and hook the open end with the hook once it's out of the groove. Put your finger over it so it doesn't go flying. Got it. Not bad, not bad. Go ahead and throw this oil drain underneath to pull the lines off the transmission. I'll just pop out just like the tranny side. And these ones are up above the tranny level, so probably not gonna lose any fluid out of this side. A little wiggle, twist, and shake will get them most of the time. And let's kind of play with it and see how we're gonna fish these out of here. I'm gonna move this up out of the way a little bit. Sometimes you gotta gently flex stuff and just work it out. The procedure when you read it makes it sound really easy, like just unclip the transmission cooler line and remove the transmission cooler line. Well, I'm running right into the differential right now, so might have to lower that diff down a little bit. Oh, almost tore my groin. That could have sucked. But first I'm just going to kind of wiggle them around and see how they free up and see if I got room to wiggle them out of here. It's kind of seeming like a little bit of pressure can get them down around this drive line. Might have to pull this shield off of the transmission for a little bit of extra clearance. Yeah, I'm going to pop this shield out of the way real quick. Alright, see if this helps us out any. This reminds me of the day that I embarrassed myself, probably more than I've ever embarrassed myself before. I was trying to do some oil cooler lines on a 4-wheel drive S10 Blazer. And if you've ever done them before, it's a battle. You gotta take one of the motor mounts up, jack the motor up a little bit to get them to clear between the diff and the engine. And I was just saying the worst words you could think of and didn't realize I had a customer sitting right in the waiting room right next to where I was working. And it was an older gal. She's probably like in her 70s. So she's probably heard that all before, I'm sure, but most embarrassed I've ever been when it comes to working on cars. So now we've got, I think we're gonna have more room to go out through the back. We may need to separate these two lines and take them out separately, but I try to pull them out as a unit if I can and put them back in as a unit. And just a little gentle tugging and wiggling. Of course, dripped all over the floor. All right, and I try to wipe up any spills as they happen. I'm not gonna worry about cleaning the floor until I get these all the way out of here and get the new ones routed in and get the radiator replaced, because it's gonna make a mess. It's just inevitable on this job. And coming out separate seems to be the key here, honestly. We're gonna want this clip off of this old one. Oh, right when I looked over, it starts draining. Just to mock me, dude. Should have just thrown some caps on both sides, that way they weren't leaking. Now we are just barely hooking that engine mount right there. Get past that. Clip just fell off that side, so there we go. Super easy, dude. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and put this one in first since it came out second. Ideally, I would have liked them to come out as one pair because we need them to be routed properly, meaning we need the upper and lower to be in the right spot for them to both fit up in there. We got a new set of factory lines here. I only use on GM cooler lines. I used to use the Dorman ones, but the problem I kept running into is they wouldn't push back up into the fittings. You wouldn't be able to get them locked in, so I'd spend an hour getting the old ones out and routing the new ones in there, only to find out that when I tried to plug them into the radiator or into the transmission fittings, that they weren't gonna snap in tight. So ever since then, that was a few years back. Happened to me twice on 2 different vehicles actually. So from then on out, I just went ahead and switched to factory lines only on the GM stuff. All right, I'm gonna get this weird looking one in here first. Once I get them routed, I'm gonna go ahead and wipe these off clean and put some lube on them. But hopefully routing them in will be easier than getting them out. And to be honest, they came out a lot easier than I expected them to. This hasn't been too bad at all. Did a Cadillac, an all-wheel drive CTS a few weeks back that was just an absolute nightmare. All right, we've got this one headed in the right direction, pretty much where we need it to be. I don't want to get it too far up in there just in case the other one, just in case it interferes with the other one, trying to get the other one in. But I do want to get it through this hole here. There we go. And go ahead and route this other one in, and then if we have to kind of twist them around each other to make them sit in there just right, we can do that. This one routes in a lot easier. And a lot of wiggling, jiggling, a little twisty, twist back and forth, and gentle pushing and pulling is what's gonna get it done. Either way, it's probably gonna be kind of a pain in the ass, not gonna lie. Now we need to go up here with them. Lovely. And those are pretty much routed into the correct spot. All right, and we're obviously not going to snap these into the transmission because we need to replace the transmission still. But those are in that clip and routed properly. We can go ahead and put the one clip on that mates them together. And minimal spills, dude, not too bad. And this clip just keeps them tied together as one unit. And it goes right up through here. Probably not going to be able to show you because I need to get my arm up in there. Well, you can look right through this hole. We're just going to snap them both in. All right, now I'm going to grab a rag and wipe off the end of those lines and make sure there's no debris on them. I'm going to give them a little bit of grease, so we'll help them go into our fitting and seal up on the O-ring that's inside there. And then I need to snap these clips back in once I have the lines pushed into place. And actually, what I like to do is get these clips snapped in first before I put the lines in. It's honestly a little trickier to get them snapped in that way, but then when I put the new line in, I just have to push it until it snaps and I know it's locked in and it's not going to pop back out. So what you need to do, there's 3 little windows on those fittings. You have to straddle one of those windows with the open side of this horseshoe clip and then pop it in to where it seats down into the groove just like that. And get this lower one in there also. Same thing, I'm going to straddle this window right here where my finger's touching with the open side, and then just gently kind of push and wiggle it back and forth until it slides all the way down into the groove. And then these little hooks right here will snap into the open windows on that fitting, and that's what hooks onto this stepped piece and keeps it locked into the fitting. So it's basically on there like that. So that's what we're trying to accomplish here. We got both of those in. I'm gonna go ahead and just get a clean rag with some brake cleaner on it. And I probably won't be able to show you very well up there, but I'm just gonna wipe off this fitting right here at the end of the line right here. Inside that fitting, there's a couple O-rings that seal onto this part of the end of the line. So we wanna make sure that's nice and clean. And then before I pop them into place, I'm gonna take a little bit of grease, or clean transmission fluid works too, on my finger, and just lube it up. That way it slides into that O-ring without catching the edge of it and ripping it. And that also will help it seal up. So I'm just gonna use some of this transmission assembly goo, get a little bit on my fingers here, lube up this lower line first. Just go all around the outside edge. Go ahead and put that into the fitting. and a little pressure with a little wiggle. As soon as you hear it snap, that's good. Same with the top line up here. Just a little bit of grease on the end of the line. Get it into the fitting. That tapered edge will push that metal clip out, and then once it clears the metal clip, it'll snap around the back side of that collar, just like this here. If you look up through this hole, try and see if I can get in kind of shot of it on camera. There we go. A little wiggle and push. Once they snap in like that, just give them a little tug. Make sure they're locked in and they're not going to pop out. Those are both good. And then this plastic collar goes over the top, and that just is a safety basically to keep that metal clip from popping out and making sure it stays seated in there. And these just snap around the whole fitting. And get the upper one on there. There we go. Lower one's not pushed in yet. And a lot of times you got to get that plastic collar to go over the metal clip first on the side where it's sticking out a little bit, and then you can work it over the other side. And sometimes they're hard to get snapped back on. And if it's not going in, maybe our clip's sticking out a little bit because it's not in all the way, so we need to double check that. We look up in there, that retainer clip is just sticking down a little bit, sticking out a little bit. Maybe our line isn't actually seated all the way in there. Our retainer clip is definitely not seating down all the way. And it's very important that we get this thing in here to where it's not going to fall off. I don't want to lose a cooler line going down the road. That's going to end up costing me and my shop a transmission if that happens. I might be being a little bit paranoid here, but I just want to make sure this thing is definitely good to go. And that thing is snapped in there 100%. I think a lot of guys would maybe leave this plastic off of here, but dude, I'm serious about making sure that's snapped in there. I do not want to be the reason why this transmission goes bad on this thing. That's for sure. See, that's pushing the bottom of that clip out. I'm going to pop this clip back off. I'm not confident with that at all. Alright, and just to ensure that it's not just this clip being too sloppy, go ahead and squeeze this thing down a little tighter. Maybe this thing just wasn't snapping in there tight enough, so I'll try that and see how that works. Seems like that snapped in there nice and tight. Well, this is frustrating, but I figured out what's going on here. Like I was just talking about, the whole reason I stopped using any sort of aftermarket cooler lines on these is take a look at the depth of this piece right here where it goes into that cooler fitting. See how long that is? It's about the same length as my thumbnail. Now take a look at this old one where it goes into that cooler fitting. It's about 3/4 the length of my thumbnail. The other one's about this long. That flared end on that line was flared incorrectly, and the whole reason I can't get that clip to sit down inside that groove on the retainer is because the difference in depth on these two ends. So long story short, I gotta pull this line back out and warranty out a brand new line already. And I wouldn't even say warranty it, but you would think brand new GM part from the dealer is gonna fit properly on a GM vehicle. But here we go. It's happening more and more, to be honest with you. Just poor parts quality, poor quality control. If you take a look at our other old one, same thing. Short flare on the transmission side, long flare on the radiator side. So I believe what happened is whoever was working at the factory that day decided to go ahead and put a transmission side flare, or decided to go ahead and put a radiator flare on the transmission side. There's probably two different jigs they have for it, or two different machine setups. I don't know. I don't work for GM transmission cooler line manufacturing, but I can tell you that this is exactly what I was talking about with the aftermarket Dorman lines on things. So frustrating. That upper one's clipped in no problem, so I'm going to see if I can pop this lower one out separate from the upper, but it's probably not going to have quite enough room to get out of there. I got to get this clip off. There we go. Alright. Well, let's see if we can fish just this one line out without taking them both back out. Man, that's unbelievable, to be honest. You'd think at the factory they would have some sort of jig that they plug them into to make sure they fit. The lower one comes out pretty easy, to be honest with you, so not a huge deal, but that is some bullshit. Some bullshit. Look at the difference here again up close. That's the radiator side flare on the transmission side on this brand new cooler line from GM. If you guys could like stop doing that, that'd be great. So after an hour of fighting it, getting everything routed, I've accomplished almost nothing so far. Can't complain too much. At least the upper line was the harder one, and that one was flared properly, and that one snapped down in no problem and is locked in how it's supposed to be. But that's why I didn't just leave it. If you guys feel like there's something wrong, don't just leave it like that. You could really end up doing some major damage, and you're gonna end up being liable for it. All right, well, frustrating, but I can't get any more done on the transmission cooler lines today. That was the part out of this whole ticket that I was looking forward to the least, and so I'm pretty glad I started with that, because we have to special order these lines. We can't get another one from the dealer for 2 days. O'Reilly's does have an AC Delco in stock overnight, so we're gonna get that coming, and the one from the dealer, just in case there's any other bullshit like this going on the new AC Delco line from O'Reilly's. We've got 2 chances with the new dealer one. But I know from now on every line that I take out, I am 100% gonna match them up side by side and just make sure I don't have a long flare where there's supposed to be a short flare, because I know for a fact that if the old line came out and it was sealed up, that's the right size, so we need it to be the same on both sides. And honestly, I didn't even think to check that on a dealer part, but parts quality is getting so out of control nowadays that you need to do your own quality checks and do your best to visually match stuff up. I mean, sometimes you're just not going to be able to tell if a part's bad until you try it. This one I could have definitely seen. Once I got the old one out, I could have matched this up and then gotten suspicious about it. And to be honest, I probably still would have tried it, because I mean, it's the only one I got, and they're special order, you know, so what are you going to do? I maybe would have tried, I guess I could have tried plugging it into the fitting without routing it over the differential and going through all that trouble. But you know what, dude? It's not that big of a deal. This line came out in about 5 minutes, so that wasn't that bad. The other line was the harder one to get in and out, so I can't do anything more with that today. I'm gonna go ahead and try this radiator out and see if I can fix something. It's gotta be one of the most disappointing feelings when you take something apart, but then you end up not being able to finish the job. Oh, that is frustrating for sure. But one of the things I'm trying to do the older I get is trying to shake things off a lot quicker. As a younger tech, I'd get very mad about things and it would ruin my whole day. Like, you just, sometimes you can't let it go, you know, and so it ends up, makes the whole day go so much less smooth. And if you can just take a minute, like, go for a walk around the block if you need to, but if you can just take a minute to calm down, accept where you're at in the process, and just move on, that's the best thing you can do. I know it is frustrating, and it's gonna piss you off to even hear that when you're mad. I remember when I'd get mad when I was working with my dad, he would say stuff like, "It's just nuts and bolts," and I would be so mad about that. Like, dude, I know it's just nuts and bolts, sir. Oh boy. All right, let's glove up and get this radiator out of here. Everything's fine, dude. I got 30 hours worth of work to do on this thing. It's not like it's blocking my rack up. This is what I was gonna be working on anyway, so no biggie. Never done a radiator on one of these before, and it looks pretty simple to me, but I was just noticing how the time was calling for like 3.3 hours on it. That seemed like a lot. Oh, that is a cool design, dude. I've never seen anything like that before. That's pretty sick. So this fan shroud, check this out. On the bottom side, it looked like it just unclipped, kind of like how the Nissan fan shrouds, you unclip them from the sides and then pop it out from the bottom. Well, I tried to tug on this one from the bottom and it didn't move, but I could see that this bottom piece was a separate piece on the fan shroud. But if you pull it off of this tab and pull on it, it rotates around to the top side and locks in. And then you have the open side down on the bottom, so you can pull this shroud off without having to pull the fan. Well, everything's fine now, dude. I'm happy now. That's not that big of a deal at all. Sometimes the simplest little things can just totally turn the day around, bro. Let's go. Let's go. That's the thing about momentum and attitude. You get into a bad mood and it's hard to recover from that sometimes. There we go. Easy, dude. Well, at least the fan shroud made my day. And this is kind of cool. No tools required for removal. Just got to push this lock tab in, and then that slides out of its spot. Same thing over here. Little lock tab. Push in on that towards the engine side and lift up on it at the same time. And let's see how their design works here. Does it really just slide out? Or do we have to take the fan off? Little finessing on our AC line. And on the bottom of the shroud, down on the core support mount for the radiator, but it slides right out of there. Alright, well, that's kind of a cool design, dude. I'm alright with that. Rotating fan shroud. Here's a live demonstration of it. Kind of cool. Oh no, their AC is leaking too, I think. Condenser's leaking. So it looks like we can just rock the radiator forward, take these two bolts out on the condenser that bolt to the radiator brackets here, and then pop that up and out, and the whole radiator will slide right out. Well, I will say they were pretty generous on their time for the radiator. I will give them that. Get your breather. I think that's for the front diff. Yep, that goes down to the front diff. Get your breather out of the bracket here. Gentle. Plastic and plastic. One nice thing is we poke a hole in this radiator, then that doesn't matter, dude. Okay. Gotta make sure we don't forget to put that back in. Could get wrapped up in the fan or do all kinds of goofy stuff under there. I'm gonna put it in this upper radiator hose, so that gives me a pretty good chance of not forgetting or missing that. Now the other thing we could do here, if that condenser was really tricky to get off of there, is we could go ahead and just evac the AC system. And pop this line off here, reach down and get that line off and just pull it all out as one unit. That's fine too. But I wasn't planning on evacing this system out. And I'm not sure if that's part of the procedure by the book or not, to be honest with you. Because I didn't read the procedure. I will say that, I mean, I've got about 20 years experience now, so there aren't too many things that really throw me off. But I will say best practice, especially if you're newer, is take the 5 to 10 minutes to read through the procedure of whatever you're doing if you've never done it before. And because there might be something in there that you didn't think about, or you might have taken a totally different route that's not going to work. There we go. Once you get the upper bolts out of the condenser, the lower just has 2 little tabs that slide into slots on the radiator. So if you lift those out of the radiator, you can go ahead and gently pull the radiator out. Make sure you're clearing the fans. Those fans do break, so careful there. And then you've got a mount sticking out on this side. It's just barely hitting that AC line, so you gotta watch out for that too. Not sure if our new radiator will come with these side supports or not. We gotta get it out of the box and check it. And super happy I put my trays down because my cap actually fell out of my lower radiator hose, which is fine. I've got a piece down there. It's no biggie. We're gonna want this piece for the new radiator. Air deflector. Sometimes you gotta reuse these little clips. So we may have to pull those off. Let's get our new radiator out and see what we got. We're probably gonna have to unbolt these side supports and bolt them to the new radiator. Oh wow. Came pre-assembled. That's pretty nice. We use performance radiator for all of our radiators and most of our AC stuff. And I gotta say, right now, off the top of my head, I can only think of maybe 1, maybe 2 times out of the past like 10 years that I've had to warranty anything from them. And I don't remember if I've ever had to do it. I don't think I've ever had to do a radiator before. These radiators are super solid. Yeah, just fine. And one thing I noticed when I pulled out our radiator, so we've got some staining on the bottom of this condenser. This condenser's leaking. And I mean, if we look where I'm at right now, it takes pretty much no labor to replace that. So we're gonna take another pause. Oh fuck, bro. Because check this out. The reason I know that's the condenser and it wasn't the radiator leaking down onto it is because if we look on the radiator here, it's nice and dry in the same exact area. The condenser is basically mated up against this, so the only place that fluid could have come from is the actual AC system, and that's refrigerant and oil that is making that condenser look wet on that bottom corner. So we're gonna give her the option to go ahead and replace that while we're in here. I mean, she's spending a bunch of money on this thing, getting everything else up to speed, so I'm gonna go grab Kelby and show him what we got. Radiator's going great. It came out pretty easy, and I saw something really cool on this fan shroud I wanted to show you. New sensors, bro.
New sensors?
Dude, these look so much better than the old ones. It's actually bad for girls to wear bras, from what I hear. New radiator. It's beautiful.
Okay.
It's fucking beautiful. Check this out, though. So the shroud, when I was underneath, it has like this bottom section. That way you can remove this section to get the shroud off without taking the fan off. And on the Nissans, there's just like 2 little clips on the bottom. And at first I thought it was this right here that holds it in place, so I took the screw out of that and shifted it down out of the way. And then I took the screw out of this side, but it didn't move, so I didn't want to break it. So I was like, well, fuck it, I'll just pull the fan off. But then when I got to the top, I could see this top side, and I realized this clip is right here. And so I was like, well, how does that come off? And then I pulled this way, and I realized this whole thing just rotates.
Oh, no way.
Out of the way, and then you pull it off.
That's fucking sick.
And then you just rotate it back into place. So that's the cool part, but check this out too. I don't want to like call her and tell her to do more stuff to it, but I've got the radiator out and the condenser's leaking on the bottom corner between the radiator and the condenser. And I know she's going to want to have air conditioning in this thing. So I'm just wondering if we should ask her if she wants us to put a new condenser in it while we have the radiator out, because it won't take really any labor. Basically just the cost of a evac and recharge.
Which was already priced out.
Oh, it's already priced on here?
Yeah.
If I'm going to already have the AC system sucked down, then I'm definitely thinking we should put a new condenser in it. Alright, well I feel silly because I went and grabbed Kelby. Kelby pointed out to me that she is already having us do an AC service on it to make sure it's ready for summer. So really just for the cost of the condenser, she can get her leak fixed while we're in here. So we're going to go ahead and talk to her, but I'm about 99% sure she's going to have us do that. And since I'm supposed to be evacing this AC system down anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get that going. And then I will be stuck waiting for parts some more. We'll go ahead and get this clearing out. Alright, well now what do I want to do? Can't put the radiator back in yet. Kind of want to do this in chunks and not move on to too many things at one time.
Tell you. Go ahead.
Alright, I'm going to do it. I was already starting on it, to be honest, because I thought that'd be really silly if she didn't want her AC to work right after all this.
No, she was stoked. She's like, oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
What's more money?
Find more things if you can. That'd be great. I'd love to spend more money on this fucking car. So as soon as that's done evacuating, we'll get that out of there. And then while I'm waiting on parts, maybe I'll lift it up and do some fluid services. In fact, do a little double dipping right now. I'm gonna pull this transmission dipstick tube out because we're gonna be doing a tranny service on it. I try to always leave, like, if I have a fluid system opened up, I try to always leave the cap or the dipstick pulled out and left on my bench. That way I don't accidentally forget to fill something up, because like say we didn't finish this transmission service today, I went home, I slept, and then finished up the whole rest of the car, working on it all day tomorrow, and then fired it up and put it in gear and revved it up with no transmission fluid in it. That would suck. I ain't looking to do anything like that. Anyway, more importantly, what happens more often, I think, or what I feel like could happen more often, is like cooling systems or engine oil. You might not see the engine oil, realize it's low till it's too late. You can go ahead and take these two nuts off. They ain't going anywhere. The system's actually under vacuum right now on the recovery, so those hoses they're not just gonna fall out. Lefty loosey, righty tighty, lefty loosey. Alright, so I have this extra tube for my fluid evacuator, and the reason for that is, like I was talking about on the Cadillac ATS transmission fluid service, a lot of times what I like to do... Hello, fluid evacuator? Where'd it go? There you are. A lot of times what I like to do is put the fluid evacuator down into the transmission dipstick, suck out as much of the transmission fluid as I can before I pull the pan. That way I make as little chance of a mess as possible. It also kind of gives me an idea of exactly how much fluid came out to start with. So when I'm going back together with it, I know how much fluid to put in to start. And I just put the tube down there until it bottoms out. Now on this particular transmission, I already know that it's going to take 5 to 6 quarts most likely. But just saves you time in the long run if you can get an accurate measurement on the way out. A lot of times when you go to do your final level check, it'll be right on the money if you just put the same amount in that you took out of it. But with that being said, you still want to check the final level. So we'll go ahead and let this do its thing while we're replacing this condenser. A minute left on our recovery. And go ahead and get these little transmission cooler clip holders, clippy clips in here. Just pop on like this, it looks like. I'm wrong. They go on this way. Yep. Easy. Got new Jesus clips in there. So we had 0.7 pounds in there. This probably takes about 1.5 pounds or so. Let's see what it says. H3 is 1.28 pounds. So it had a little over half a charge in it. It's probably still working a little bit. But now that that's recovered and we've got no more pressure in the system and we don't have a vacuum pump vacuuming the system down, we can go ahead and pull our AC lines off the condenser here. Oh no, dropped the bolt, dropped the nut, that's fine. Yep, a little tiny leak, and looks like it was probably out of the bottom of the receiver dryer here. It's probably an O-ring where that bolts down on in there. We may have been able to just do that O-ring, but that's alright, condensers are cheap enough.